You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the journalist and author Christina Patterson and the broadcaster and former advisor to Boris Johnson, Kulveer Ranger. There they both are. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Don't panic, the Observer leads with Business Secretary Kwesi Kwarteng bid to calm fears over gas price increases. The Sunday Express says Boris Johnson will launch a new charm offensive on America this week as he flies out to New York to make his UN speech. Diplomacy is on the front of the Telegraph too, with new Foreign Secretary Liz Truss defending the security pact between the UK, US and Australia in the face of French anger. The Times reports on what it calls an unprecedented intervention from the Speaker of the Commons after a female MP pulled out of the Labour annual conference following online threats. Travel unlocks for holidays at half-term. That's on the front of the Eye. Double-jabbed arrivals set to no longer need expensive PCR tests. The Mirror has the news that ex-England rugby legend Rob Burrow will receive a new wonder drug to fight his motor neurone disease. So we're joined tonight by Christina Patterson and Kulveer Ranger. Good evening to you both. Let's start with the Observer front page, looking at the story that obviously we've been covering this evening, and that is the energy potential crisis. The headline there, "Don't panic, Minister bids to calm fears over gas prices." Christina, take us into this first.
Yes, well, when a minister don't panic, it doesn't exactly calm one down. Prices are absolutely rocketing at the moment, and it's not entirely clear why. There have been suggestions in the Telegraph, actually, that Putin might be involved in helping to manipulate, push prices sky high as a way of destabilizing us. Who knows if that's correct or not? But the consequences are very serious. It will lead to food shortages of carbon dioxide, which, although we're trying to get rid of it on every other front, we do need for frozen food, for meat production, for food production in all kinds of ways. So this really could lead not just to massive hikes in bills for consumers, but also for food shortages on top of the food shortages we already have through shortage of haulier drivers. So this could be a very, very serious situation.
Kulveer, is the minister, do you feel calmed by the don't panic instruction?
Well, it seems to be that what he's saying, and Kwesi Kwarteng is quite a talented minister. He's been seen as a rising star for a long time in the Conservative Party. But I think the other thing the government's probably trying to do is avoid acting too late in something. So we all saw what happened with the original start of the pandemic, and it felt like, we weren't sure what we were doing. Here, potentially the government can see problems emerging. We've obviously seen issues around gas supplies. A number have already gone bust with the hugely increasing cost of gas. It's a complicated issue because it's not just about supplies, international routes. As Christina says, there's rumour, who knows, conjecture about Russian supply. There's European supply chains that we need to understand. And then there's the actual impact on industry and complicated supply chains that get impacted by the price of gas and the distribution of it. So a massive concern. The minister quite rightly tried to calm nerves, but it has been said that he will be undertaking further meetings tomorrow and on Monday. I think tomorrow with Ofgem, circling back with the suppliers, the energy providers on Monday as well. So obviously taking it very seriously, trying to understand the landscape and the size and the impact of the potential issue.
Christina, does it seem as though we're on the verge of a disaster? 8 hours of talks today, also further talks tomorrow, and it seems, according to the Observer there, that this will be thrashed out in further hours of discussions, and the aim really is to prevent millions falling into fuel poverty.
Well, I can't say that I feel hugely reassured by Kwesi Kwarteng's words. I mean, I'm old enough to remember in the 70s doing my homework by candlelight and the 3-day week, and my father having to sleep on his office floor in pajamas. I know that people often find it hard to imagine that things can get that bad, but they can get that bad. And we've already got, sort of echoes of the 1970s in quite a lot that's going on at the moment. So I think when a minister is spending 8 hours on a Saturday having meetings and is likely to do the same on a Sunday, I can't say it instills confidence in me.
Kulveer, move us on to the Telegraph and this story, but the French are very, very annoyed. Truss defies EU with vow to fight for freedom, and France warning that the new defence deal will have repercussions for the future of NATO. This seems incredibly serious.
Well, it does for the French, but it seems like a bit of a coup for the UK, the US, and Australia, an alliance bringing together capability, securities, and contracts worth significant money to the US and the UK, and jobs. Now, you can understand if the French have been, let's say, nobbled in a business deal here, they have their nose out of joint and have demonstrated that by withdrawing their ambassadors from Canberra and Washington. But, this is geopolitical. It's also industrial. There's been an alliance between 3 countries here, and they're looking to share security going forward. Now, maybe the French have been outmaneuvered here, and it feels that's what's happened, and so they're not best pleased, but who would blame them?
Yes, the French have described it as unacceptable behaviour. Would you agree with that, Christina, or is this just good business sense?
Well, I think the French ambassador has accused us of opportunism and duplicity. And Liz Truss, of course, never known for underselling herself or what she calls global Britain, having, of course, been a very ardent Remainer turned born-again Brexiter and now born-again global Britainer, whatever that might be, is talking it up as this great coup and talking about us fighting for freedom and promoting freedom worldwide and wanting to plant the flag for global Britain on the world stage, which is in a rather excruciating analogy. But the thing is, it's already apparently emerged that President Xi Jinping is now extremely unlikely to come to COP26 because he's so fed up with this thing, which is, fairly understandable. So I think when Liz Truss described herself in a BBC interview a few years ago as no diplomat, she may well have been speaking nothing less than the truth, because to have managed to upset both France and China in one fell swoop shortly before you're about to host one of the most important summits possibly in world history. I mean, certainly very important, because I think anybody but a nutcase now would acknowledge we do have a climate emergency. This doesn't look terribly sensible to me.
Kulveer, according to The Express, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson is bidding to level up the world. What do we understand by that statement?
Well, I think people are still trying to work out what it means for the UK, which is why we've seen the new government department that Michael Gove's heading up, including levelling up in its agenda. But I think levelling up the world, I think this is what we're talking about in terms of sustainability and really the mega challenges that there are about helping those nations that need more support to be able to do the things they can do to reduce their carbon footprint, while also the nations that can afford it making the right decisions locally. And Boris Johnson, this government, as Christine says, holding COP26 in November, want to get that point across. And I think it's a point that everyone wants to lean in on, but it's about tangible differences. What can be done to help all those countries that need support from the richer countries that are probably further ahead on this agenda? I think the key thing here, though, just go back to the China point, is that China are already struggling to square the circle in terms of CO2 emissions. We all know that they're not quite hitting the mark in terms of their power stations, their requirement for travel, for material, for production, for use of coal. And it's very hard for them. So they'll be looking for a reason, potentially this reason around the trade deal and the security issue around Australia. But I don't think that should be distracting from what we're trying to do and this government is trying to do and what all of us hope they will do, which is really progress the agenda around sustainability at COP26.
Christina, the Express are describing it as a charm offensive by the Prime Minister on America. You're laughing.
Well, I feel very sorry for those people who are going to be subjected to this charm offensive. But I just had to laugh at this headline because this is Boris Johnson in true world king mode. We all know that as a child he decided he wanted to be world king, which of course is why, unfortunately for us, he has ended up as our prime minister. But the idea, I mean, nobody ever knew what levelling up meant. It was a ridiculous slogan, and now, of course, all kinds of people, the latest being Andy Haldane, formerly Bank of England, are being drafted in to kind of turn this ridiculous slogan into some kind of reality. But if they really wanted to level up the world, what they should do is give away the enormous number of excess vaccines that we have been accumulating. Because if we don't do that, then we are going to end up, with, a pandemic that goes on for a very long time and new variants. But also, there is nothing that is going to exacerbate the inequality in the world more than having the Western world with, endless vaccines. We're about to get our third vaccine, those of us who are over 50, and the rest of the world mostly having none. So, if he wants to level up, that's how he can do it.
Just got time, Kulveer, to talk about the front page, and this is about the travel situation moving towards normality. Not quite there yet, but certainly easing up for many people, particularly with the half-term holidays coming up.
Well, it looks like the change in the traffic light system, so it's just gone to red or you can go, and a number of countries coming off the red list, and also the simplification around tests, Gillian. It has been challenging. I personally travelled abroad this week and realised, taking that test to come back, if it had come positive, you have a challenge. You can't come back. Now, that's been removed if you're double vaccinated. It did need simplification. I hope it really helps the travel industry in the run up to half term in October. People seem to be booking. There will still need to be precautions, but I think the big message to everybody is get vaccinated. If you can, get the double vaccination done, and really let's make sure we can get some kind of enjoyment and some kind of holidays still this year.
Okay. Kulveer and Christina, thank you very much for the moment. We are going to take a break, but coming up, Gove in Cabinet power grab. The Telegraph reports on the reshuffle's biggest winner. Stay with us.
Ilulissat is the Inuit name for the place of big icebergs, and certainly that was the case. The reason why I went to do it was very, very simple. I swim in some of the most vulnerable ecosystems in the world to highlight what's happening there. In Ilulissat now, it's the fastest moving glacier in the world. It's now moving at a speed of 40 meters per day in summer. And so this was a swim in the month now before the big climate change negotiations which take place in Glasgow, to highlight the speed and the scale of the climate crisis. I spent nearly 18 years swimming in the polar regions, so there's a lot of experience that goes into it. Before I get into the water, I get slowly into the water so that I don't hyperventilate, and then I swim as fast as I can. But it's been years and years of experience and years of acclimatization to be able to get into these freezing cold waters. When I do the swim, so this swim was a multi-day swim. It was 12 swims, 14 swims over a period of 12 days. I swim in the morning, I then have to rewarm, I then swim in the afternoon. So it really was unrelenting though. By far the hardest swim I have ever undertaken in my life. The glacier is at the top of a long fjord. The fjord is about 60 kilometers long. And at the mouth of the fjord, there are a number of huge icebergs. These icebergs are about 1 kilometer tall. It's unbelievable. And during the swim, one of these dislodged, and behind it were literally thousands and thousands and thousands of smaller icebergs. And I've never seen anything like it, because it was like a motorway of ice coming off the Greenland ice sheet, down the glacier, into the fjord, and then it was like, as I say, a motorway of ice going all the way out, 10 kilometers out to sea. I mean, ice is essential for life on Earth. I say to people, no ice, no life. It's essential for life on Earth because ice keeps our planet within a temperature range in which we can live. And so now, as the Arctic is beginning to melt, and down in the southern hemisphere, as Antarctica is also melting, and also the glaciers on the high mountains of the world. This has a huge impact on us all over the world. So what's happening now in Ilulissat will literally impact every single person on this planet, every future generation, and the whole of the animal kingdom.
It was my vision to come and protect wildlife in the future. Animals like lion can enter into bomas, they kill their livestock, and this leads to human-wildlife conflict.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview. Still with me, Christina Patterson and Kulveer Ranger. Welcome back to both of you. Let's have a look at the Telegraph, which seems to be saying that Michael Gove has come out on tops in the cabinet reshuffle and perhaps fared the best of all. Kulveer.
Oh,
there you
seems
go.
that way. Sorry, Gillian.
Unmuted. How long have we been doing this Zoom thing now, Kulveer?
My apologies. It still happens. I'm sorry.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
No, it seems Michael Gove has found the unmute button well and truly, and also extended his volume in government, let me put it that way, at the new department that he has. Well, not new, but added responsibility department with the levelling up element of this government's agenda being added to it. Now, why is that important? Why is it something important in a title of a department? Because it focuses the minds, it focuses civil servants' priorities. It tells them quite clearly where this government, that government, and Michael Gove is focusing. But the other side about levelling up is it is a broad agenda. It does spread across a number of good departments, because what this government is trying to do, based on the election that it won and all those votes it got from the red wall seats, is deliver infrastructure, housing, and better services across different parts of the country that didn't feel that they were being recognised and receiving what they felt their fair share, levelling up. So if a department now has that name, and Michael Gove has that challenge, not only does he have the department, but he seems to have authority across many other areas of government. So yes, sounds like a win for Mr. Gove.
Christina, if the department is named as such, levelling up, does that mean it's going to be more effective?
I mean, it sounds Orwellian to me. I mean, when are they going to take all these peculiar slogans and nobody has a clue what any of them means, and, you know, put them in sort of neon lights over all kind of government departments and demand that people stop using ordinary English and start using these peculiar slogans? I have absolutely no idea what levelling up means. I mean, in terms of the English language, it's absolutely nonsensical. Of course, we know that Boris Johnson wants to keep his red wall seats, and, you know, that's a pragmatic thing. But in terms of what it actually means, who knows? I don't think Michael Gove knows. Boris Johnson doesn't know. What Michael Gove does need to do is make sure that more houses are built, and that is a serious challenge, because obviously, you know, in order to build more houses, you have to build in people's backyards, and then lots of people don't like stuff being built in their backyards. And as we saw from the recent, I think it was the Amersham by-election, which went to the Lib Dems, you know, people get really angry about this stuff. So it's a very difficult challenge that Michael Gove has been set. He is among the more competent members of the cabinet. I think Matthew Parris yesterday described the new cabinet as a cabinet of charlatans for a government of charlatans. And I'd have to say I agree with that assessment, but I do think that Michael Gove is competent. Whether one likes him is another issue, but he probably has as good a chance as anyone of turning levelling up into something beyond a slogan. And I would be fascinated to see what it actually means.
Kulveer, out of interest, would you attempt at a succinct definition of levelling up for us?
Well, I'll do my best, but I think levelling up is all about evening out investment across the country, whether that be housing, transport, public services, That's what this government is trying to do. And that's why it's a lot to do with infrastructure and, as Christina said, housing. We do need to build and invest the right transport links and housing for people in parts of this country that just haven't seen enough of it over decades.
Well done. I don't know if Christina's satisfied or not, but we'll move on to, just got time for the Matt cartoon at the Sunday Telegraph. Talk us into this, it's quite funny. The actual script says, the text is, let's see how the eco-fanatics like this. I've superglued myself to a recycling bin. You can see the cartoon up there. Christina.
Well, I thought I love the Matt cartoon, but I think if you were on the M25, it's no joke. But the idea of bringing disruption to one of the roads in the UK that has more traffic than pretty much anyone who's ever been near the M25 knows that the last thing it needs is protests and disruption. So I think if anything is going to put people off any kind of response to climate change, this would be it. And they're doing an excellent job, alienating the entire country. So well done.